My name is Victor Frankenstein, and I'm a mad scientist. As some of you may know, I lost my family because of this condition. But I've been normal for about 2 years, and it's great. I'm putting my life back together, or making a new one. I've rented myself a new room in a lodging house, first floor. When I arrived, actually, only the top floor was available, but the landlady was kind enough to rearrange things. I didn't want it to remind me of a tower. She's very nice, Mrs. Brown, very understanding. Actually, her name's Frau von Hildebrand, but she lets me call her Mrs. Brown. It's less Germanic, I suppose. She's actually helped me a great deal. Had all the doors oiled to stop them creaking ominously. She refuses to hire workmen if they're too hunched. She even checks for monsters under the bed. No. Excuse me, I still have this problem sometimes with the old mannerisms. I can't stop myself tearing my hair out either, obviously. Sometimes I say, I'll show those fools. All sorts. But I've been trying to figure out how the problem started, and I think I can trace it back to my childhood. There was this sort of showman that used to come to our town and demonstrate all sorts of scientific experiments. I remember there was this one where he put a dove underneath a bell jar and closed the air valve so it would start to asphyxiate, and just at the brink of death, just as it stopped moving, he'd open the air valve and it would spring back to life. Which kind of showed us all that life depended on oxygen, which is just an example of uninteresting and corrupting glimpse of the workings of the universe. I saw a tree get struck by lightning once, and I thought, all that power, if I can take hold of it, I can make it work for me! No. I'm all right, let me go on. I feel like I'm making progress. Of course, it was all full steam when I went to college, the medical school at Lingersland. There was an epidemic there. Everyone did mashi, staff, students, rife with it. Unnatural philosophy, we called it. It was a perfect city for it. Practically nothing but graveyards and imposing castles. Thunderstorms all year. There was just one little boring ordinary quarter where the simple villagers lived in thatched cottages and lederhosen. I don't know what they did most of their time, but every now and again, when somebody at the university did a particularly ingenious thing, a particularly meddlesome and foolish experiment, they'd drop everything and form an angry mob just for us. Fantastic. Pitchforks, fiery torches. Some of them got confused and actually set fire to their pitchforks. Everyone loved mob night. You'd know you'd achieve something if you got involved. We'd bolt the doors, we'd stand on battle mats looking down at the sea of flame and frightened faces, and we'd think that we did that. The command forces of nature, and now we command the emotions of man. But I see now that we were wrong. I was a brilliant student. The professors loved me. In my first year I made some improvements to the design of the laboratory equipment, with some breakthroughs in bubbling glassware. I made an electronic generator that made brighter sparks and louder cracking than ever before. And you know those pairs of upright needles with concentric rings that light up one by one? I invented those. They don't have anything to do useful, but every chemist in Europe wanted a set on his desk. I became respected. But you know what? It wasn't enough. That's the thing about the mad side. You always want more. More glory and more fear. In my master's year, I decided to have a monster. It's a big decision, but I thought I was ready. You've all heard the story. You've probably all heard different versions, though. There have been so many retellings, rumours, novelisations, and play scripts. Not even my name stays the same. Sometimes it's Victor, sometimes it's Henry, sometimes Heinrich. Sometimes I'm a doctor, sometimes a baron. Sometimes the monster even gets my name. I stole corpses to make a body. That bit's true. I cut them down from the gallows, dug them up from the cemeteries, dragged each one back to my room and cut off one foot or whatever part I needed, threw the rest away, went back for another corpse. It never occurred to me that instead of cutting them all up and sewing the pieces together, I could probably just use one body. You know how you can focus on one thing. It's a plan. I suppose I thought it would be more than a monster with all the scars and bolts. The research too, I did all that. don't know what had made anything so complex before. I went to the top and bottom of creation with that monster. I became an expert in branches of science that didn't exist yet. I calculated. I saw what happens when atoms smash together and when galaxies fly apart. I found out how the whole world began, how life started itself, and how it will all end. I knew everything. I was a modern Prometheus. I knew I was up to something great. I mean terrible, actually. But I didn't have an inkling of what it was. What I was stitching together in my room. The whole corridor stank of dead bodies, but actually nobody noticed that, seeing it was students' accommodation. Time went by. I don't know how much, months, year, 2 years. My father wrote sarcastic letters saying he trusted I wasn't neglecting my studies. I didn't reply, but it did make me realise I had a problem. But I thought I could control it. I thought I'd just get to the monster finished, I'll be out of the system, and in the end it was, well, in a way, it was in a way. It was one dreary night of November. I put the last bits to the monster, the eyes snapping them into place like the final pieces of a 100-piece jigsaw. I had it laid out on a special workbench that would rise up into the thunderstorm through a hatch in the roof, carrying both of us. It was for effect more than anything else, really. I cut the rope and we shot up, and the electricity struck, and I was looking into those eyes, and the last thing I can remember, the very last thing, before it all gets confusing, is looking down into those dead yellow eyes. Without having anything moved, they were looking back. I don't think I shouted, "It's alive!" But I may have done.